Good evening. Call to order, District 208 Board of Education. Can I have a pledge of allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Nardi, can we have a roll call, please?
Here.
Gasko. Here. Ms. Ruska, Ms. Lott, Mr. Novak, Mr. Thunderforth,
Here.
and Ms. Simmons.
Here. Recognitions, Dr. Freitas.
Good evening, honorable board members. I just want to reiterate how proud I am of the class of 2024, and congratulations to everyone who was involved in supporting our recently graduating seniors. 7 RBHS students participated in the Community Memorial Foundation's Community Changemakers YC2 program. YC2 is a youth philanthropy program offered to juniors and seniors designed to educate and empower youth to become the next generation of philanthropists. The program's curriculum fosters students' exploration of their local communities and the social issues within them, educates them on philanthropic theory, and involves them in assessing organizations and distributing grants. This year, 69 students were accepted into the program and divided into 2 groups. Both groups conducted site visits and evaluated grant requests to award up to $30,000 to non-profit organizations. Student, while you call your name, please come on up and stand in front of the Board of Education, please. Jessica Bellum, Montserrat Brito, Jory Eggers, would you mind standing in front of the board facing me, okay? Emma Lopez. Hayden Mars.
Hayden.
Graduated, still coming back for awards. Congratulations, Hayden. I'm proud of you. You can stand here. Rachel Nguyen and Henry Walker. All right, Bulldogs. Give me a quick seconds. All right, here we go, Bulldogs.
Let's get our
Big smile,
shoulder
let's
to
see those
shoulder.
certificates. Let's see them. Here we go. In 3, 2, 1. One more. 3, 2, 1. Proud of you. Yes, can we give it up for our YC2 students?
Hayden, as a senior, can you tell the board what your program was or what your group did?
Sure, should I like talk into the...
Sure.
Okay, it's been a minute. I'm talking about just like the program?
Yeah, so explain to them what your group did. You went around and...
Yeah, so our group, we had 8 applicants for our grants, and then we narrowed it down to 5 site visits. And then our final meeting, we decided where to allocate the funds, and we allocated them to Hope's Front Door, which is a nonprofit designed to house and mothers of that are victims of domestic violence, and the other 2 are fleeting my memory that we donated money that we gave our grants to. But that was the capstone of the program. But most of the program we spent learning the inner workings of philanthropy and how to strengthen the community ties from every angle. So yeah.
Good job.
We're proud of you.
Thank
for
you.
making our community better.
Sorry to put you on the spot. Take just 1 minute. Good job.
All right, I think this is it for you. You can graduate and go on your way. Take care, Chair. Congratulations to the newly inducted members of the Riverside Brookfield High School chapter of the National Honor Society for Dance Arts. This is the first year that RBHS has an NHSDA chapter. The inducted dance exemplify outstanding artistic merit, academic achievement, and leadership in the field of dance. Congratulations. When you hear your name, please come on up to Vera Brenneman, Lily Borkovitz, Jaden Kadungag, Ella Dara, May Jameson, Amy Bugnani, Greta Stanovichute, and Genevieve Van Nice.
Let's give a round of applause.
Dr. Freitas, these were the pink cords we saw at graduation on Friday, right?
Coach?
These were the blue and white ones.
Okay.
Want to give her a
Yes, and I would like to invite our coach on up, Miss Dahl. Come on up, Coach.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. Proud of you.
Thank you.
For the girls.
Perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, so those were the blue and white cords. They could earn the cords. They could also earn the medallion for high honors as well. And if they were interested in the high honors, they submitted like an extra essay. Everything that they do, both inside and outside of RB in regards to dance, counts towards induction and graduation with high honors. So they gather points throughout their high school career. It starts when they become freshmen, and I just thought this was a really great opportunity for them to, encourage within and outside of RB their dance passion. And this is the first year that we have this. I think it's a really great opportunity for the ones who are younger to, strive for something, and it's something that we're really proud of this year.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
And Coach did host, Ms. Daw, she did host an in-school ceremony when other girls were here. A lot of seniors were mentioned, so thank you, Coach Daw. We are extremely proud of you. And last but not least, the two students that I'd like to introduce now were chosen to be our student advisors to the Board of Education for the 2024-2025 school year. First, I would like to introduce Emma Lopez. And Olivia Lopez. Here we go. Big smiles and 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Good. Good.
Congratulations.
Okay, now that you're student advisors to the Board of Education, we want to hear your story, okay? Come on up, Emma. Give us 30
I was
seconds
also,
here.
Dr. Freitas, we also could have Ms. Gaska and Mr. Van Horst, who did the interview process, talk about that a little bit as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, Madam President. Emma, yeah, talk about your experience. Congratulations. How do you feel now,
I'm incredibly grateful for this opportunity, and I am so glad that I have the chance to share my voice and represent the greater student body here at Riverside Brookfield High School. And I can't wait for an amazing year next year as a senior, and I can't wait to create an impact and represent the students here at Riverside Brookfield High School.
Great, thank you.
Congratulations, Olivia. How do you feel? You're student advisor to the Board of Education now.
Yeah, it feels great. I just want to thank you all for this opportunity, just to be able to, like Emma said, to represent the student body here. We have an amazing school and a very unique school in our area, and I'm very excited for next year to be working with all of you and to be able to make our school environment and our school just better for everyone, for our teachers, for our admin, for students, and for everyone. So I just want to thank you all for this opportunity. I'm so excited to work with you next year.
Great, thank you. Would you guys mind talking about the process a little bit? 'Cause I'm looking forward to you guys coming back in August. You can take the summer off. You don't have to be here every meeting in the summer.
I just want to add that it was a very competitive process. We received a lot of applications, and we really based our selection on the written application. I know we looked at that closely in addition to the interviews and just seeing everybody's voice come through loud and clear, and Emma and Olivia were the two that we ended up going with this year. So I'm really excited. I think that every year it gets tougher to choose. So that speaks highly of the students that we have here at RB. As Olivia mentioned, we are a very unique environment. So I'm really looking forward to working with both of you in the coming year. Congratulations. And parents are here, so congratulations to you too.
I would just like to say thank you to everyone who applied. It was an incredibly tough process, and I think there was an in-depth discussion about about every single one and the benefits that they could bring in terms of perspective from the student lens. And so I walked out with a little bit more hope, because watching these students come interview with absolute skills, ability to communicate, and also desire to make a difference. It is heartwarming. I walked out ready to, be reinvigorated for a new school year next year as well. But I look forward to working with these two. They clearly got our choice, and so I look forward to working with them and hearing their voice. And just want to say congratulations to you, but to everyone who is applying. It's been a pleasure to get to know some of the students here.
With leave of the board, can we pass the resolution now, naming them as our student advisors?
Sure.
Is everyone okay with that? Since the parents are here, we can make it official for the evening.
The Board of Education, Township High School District 208, Cook County, Illinois, approves the appointments of Emma Lopez and Olivia Lopez to serve as student advisors to the Board of Education for the 2024-2025 school year, as presented in the May 28, 2024 Board Agenda Packet.
Second.
A second from Mr. Van Horst. This is all in favor?
Aye.
We have no objections. I think over the summer, as the summer wraps up, Dr. Freitas will reach out in a session with most likely Ms. Gaska and Mr. Van Horst to learn a little bit how the board works. It's a lot of budget discussion. I'll prepare you now. That's what we tend to talk about. But we really look forward to your input and enjoy your last summer before your senior year.
Congratulations.
Yes, congratulations. Thank you. You guys don't. You just stick around.
Madam President, this concludes our recognitions.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you,
Freitas.
Dr. Freitas.
Thank you all.
Welcome too. Yes, thank you. I have no report this evening. We do have a district goals update.
There's just to inform the
Yeah.
board that we're working. I have the administration turning in their SMART goal draft, so you should see first draft at the June 11th meeting for discussion.
And as a reminder, we want to get those finalized at the first meeting in July.
Correct. The only meeting in July.
The only meeting, yes, thank you. Good reminder. We do take, I think this might have been on the agenda in a couple of places, but I wanted to make sure we had the time for the bond and debt overview. So this is Dr. Smetana's report. Thank you.
Would you like me to jump to that first? Or
No, go through your
Yeah, go through your regular
report.
Good evening. Tonight I'll provide the board with financial information for the month of April, which represents 83% of our fiscal year. So our total operating revenue for the month was $1,224,546, with 50% from federal and state grant reimbursements, 22.5% from evidence-based funding, which is our state funding, and 13% from interest on investments. The total operating expenditures for the month were $2,133,179, with 84% towards salary and benefits, 5% on purchase services and other expenditures, and 4% on transportation. So it was a light month in terms of bills. On the next page, you'll see the summary of revenues, which shows that the district has received 95.7% of our budgeted revenue for the year. This amount is just slightly lower than this time last year due to the timing of additional property tax payments. So I included an email from our township treasurer. As you can see, we likely will not receive any additional money for property tax that we have budgeted for this fiscal year. So we're chasing around $880,000 on property tax. So like I said, I don't anticipate getting it this June. So we'll be short that amount of revenue, and then that will, since we budget on a cash basis, will likely be accounted for under next fiscal year. The summary of revenue shows that the district has spent 82.6% of the budgeted expenditures for the year, and this amount is pretty similar to this time last fiscal year of 83.7%. As always, I included the statement of revenues and expenditures for both the board accounts as well as the activity accounts for the month of April. At this time, I was going to jump to the technology report.
It's fine.
Okay. So I'd like to call up Mike Connors, our technology director, and Kevin Dybus, our instructional technology coordinator. Every year we provide the Board of Education an overview of completed and upcoming technology projects, initiatives, as well as infrastructure updates. So at this point, I will turn it over to Mike.
Good evening. So I'll start off with what we've done this current year and move into what we expect to do next year and then future plans. So as far as daily operations, We took care of 1,357 technology tickets. We had 456 Chromebook repairs that were completed. Both of those numbers were as of April 30th. Some of the projects that we accomplished this year were replacing all of our access points to Wi-Fi 6, which gave us better speed and more capacity in each classroom for all the mobile devices. We did projector installations in the auditorium and little theater. We also had security camera and vape detector expansions where we added 77 additional cameras and 17 additional vape detectors. We did some server upgrades from Windows 2019 to Windows 2020. 5 servers were upgraded. We did our first phase of our Windows 10 to Windows 11 operating system upgrades. This was required because in 2025, in the fall, that Microsoft will no longer be sending out any kind of updates for Windows 10. So we decided to do basically an upgrade of all of our computers in a 3-year phase, or 3 phases over 3 years. So the total number of computers that will be done are 504. Last summer, we did 210 of the computers. We basically took all of our computer labs and started there. And also, we had to replace several of our uninterrupted power supplies in our main server room, or the NDF, which are battery backups in case there's storms or anything like that, which, as we all know, we've had a couple of those already. For this upcoming school year, we're going to be doing our phase 2 of the migration from Windows 10 to 11. We plan on having about 148 computers, which will basically cover all our classrooms and academic department computers and offices. We'll also continue to do some more UPS upgrades. We're also going to start a network infrastructure upgrade where our first phase is going to be 4 of the 19 switches that we have around the building, including the stadium and auto shop. We also will be upgrading some servers that have reached their useful life. Another project we'll be doing is the World Language Lab conversion. This is where currently they use Windows as the operating system, and we're going to use Chrome boxes, which are desktops that run the Chrome OS. The reason we were able to do that is that the software company that makes our world language software is migrating over to a web-based software. So it doesn't require the Windows software anymore in order to be used. Another thing that we're doing is the replacement of our POTS line, which is the regular copper lines that we've had to use cellular phone lines. These are the phone lines that are in like the elevators and I think for one of our water pipes and stuff like that. So the next thing we're going to be doing also is in the main gym, little theater, and auditorium, we're going to be increasing the wireless capacity in those areas. Currently, we really don't have the capacity if those areas are filled with people for everyone to go on their phone or everyone to go on a Chromebook or some sort of mobile device. Once this is done, those 3 areas will be fully functional for all mobile devices.
Quick question.
Yeah.
On the Windows operating system upgrade, does that impact the Chromebooks as well, or those are internal computers? Do the students' Chromebooks get impacted?
The Chromebooks, they won't be upgraded. They get a normal upgrade through Google.
Okay.
Are you talking about the World Language Lab? Is that what yours?
Teachers' desktops.
Yeah, just
the teachers' desktops will continue to be Windows.
Okay.
And actually, they're getting new computers. That's what we're doing for an upgrade.
And all this is budgeted for.
I was just going to add, that was my follow-up question, but
That's why we are phasing it in over 3 years, yes.
I had a recollection we had identified that last year's budget.
So for future projects, we're going to complete the Windows 10 to 11 operating system upgrade, which the last phase would be 146 computers. We're also going to investigate our projectors, which are getting close to the end of their useful life. We're investigating projectors that will allow us to set times for when the projectors can be shut off at night. Every once in a while, I get here pretty early in the morning, and I'll see a couple classrooms that the projectors are left on overnight and stuff like that. So this will help save us on bulb usage, which the bulbs can be pretty expensive for the projectors, and often through the lifetime a projector will cost more than the projector. We're also going to be inspecting our screens to make sure that they're in good shape and that they're the proper size for the rooms that they're in. Many of the projector screens that we have, they're quite old, and the new projectors project in a different size than a lot of the older projectors. So some of the rooms have really big screens where it's a smaller screen on there, shot on there, then you got all this extra space. So, and we're going to be continuing with our switch replacements and also with the UPS replacements.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Any questions from anyone? No, this was very thorough. Thanks. I don't think we've had it laid out in quite this fashion before, so I appreciate seeing it this way. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for having me. So I'm going to start by talking about blended learning. Blended learning is an instructional design strategy that blends traditional learning with online and multimedia learning. At RB, staff members in our blended learning program receive professional development for multiple blended learning styles, including flipped classrooms, playlists and checklists, station rotation, and flex learning. Some key moments in blended learning program from this year. Blended learning professional development reached 36 different staff members across multiple, or I think all departments throughout this year. Blended Learning Week was hosted to spotlight teachers and encourage teachers and administrators to jump in and observe classrooms. So teachers took a week and just said, hey, here are all the times that I'm teaching blended learning styles, so that people could sort of have an open invite to explore. Blended Learning Professional Development this year focused on teaching about the blended learning styles and how to differentiate within your classroom. Next, to talk about flex learning. Flex learning is a type of blended learning style where students who are meeting benchmarks have the opportunity to learn outside of the classroom on staff-directed days. Through flex learning, students have increased accountability, time management, and autonomy in their learning. In flex, we had 8 staff members exploring flex scheduling throughout this school year. We included new flex locations and updated some of the current flex locations, which would be the atrium where we added furniture, and the blended learning room was updated as a flex learning space. And then we also developed a 4-year blended learning plan.
Where's the blended learning room?
Right outside the library.
Yeah, it's one of the old computer labs that we sort of changed into a blended learning space.
Okay, I'm just trying to picture it.
So when they say flex,
yeah, so flex
maybe
is,
go give them the
yeah, flex is
experience with
essentially,
blended.
you know, if we talk about blended in general, blended is a teaching strategy that could look a lot of different ways. When we talk about flex, we're talking about students who are meeting benchmarks that we've set either within our own classroom or based off our district minimum, where we say, students, you can go into that atrium and you could be learning there today, or you can go into the library or the flex space and work there. And then that teacher instead is working with the students who either didn't meet those benchmarks or other ones that the teacher just has chosen to keep behind for whatever reason, and can provide a little bit more personalized instruction.
And if I could add, I'm just so proud of the staff, because you see students not only in the classroom but outside the classroom studying, and they're focused. They know the purpose of the assignment. You know, they're collaborating with one another. So at first I was a little weird, right? Kids in different places, but the kids, they rise to the occasion thanks to the partnership with our teachers.
We first went on that site visit to Huntley in pre-pandemic.
2016 or 17? Yeah.
And we were planning this out to implement. We're finally in a phase where Mr. Davis and the teachers that are in blended can implement it. So it took a little longer with the pandemic, but some of the work we were doing on blended and with one-to-one really helped us get through the pandemic. And now the teachers have really taken the ball. And
So are those 8 staff members a subset of the 36 blended, or are they?
Yeah, it's a
Some-
subset of the 36.
Okay.
And then it's growing as well, so there's more of them who are interested for next year. I try and keep the reins a little bit tight on flex, so I usually want people to go through a year of blended professional development in the first place before going into flex, so that they can learn about the different styles, how to run their classroom in a totally non-traditional way, and then sort of dip their toes into flex after a year.
Kevin, do you also, before you go on, want to touch briefly in a little more detail about your 4-year blended learning plan?
Sure. So over the next, or essentially over 4 years, the professional development that a person is signing up for will be sort of portioned out over 4 years of getting 2 professional development days and then 2 days of collaboration, discussion, and time to just build out their resources. And those two professional development days are sort of targeted towards different topics in blended. So it might be the types of blended, differentiation. I think I have it in the next portion, but data-driven instruction is going to be a focus for next year. Using formative assessment throughout your learning trajectory, flex learning, playlists. So the professional development that they're provided is over 4 years so that they can sort of slowly grow that, and sort of hyper-focus, though, on different things each year. We also have discussed having all new staff members automatically get added to the blended learning program. Right now, it's a volunteer thing. If people want to take on this initiative, great. But it's a hard sell of a perk, right? You're investing tons and tons of time, and we appreciate the time that the board and the administration also invest in it as well. But we want this to become something that becomes more of a standard. So I think the discussion that we landed on was after 3 years, any new staff member would just automatically be put into this program so that we can ensure that moving forward, all people will have gone through blended learning.
Makes sense.
You know, flex learning will still, I think, be up to them, and they'll have autonomy to choose it. But it will be a way of saying that, you know, we want people to use this in their classrooms.
so we are technically in our 4th year of blended.
Third, if you count the year pre-pandemic.
Okay. And you're at 36. Last year you were at 17.
Last year we were at 12.
12.
This year 36. Next
So you
year
had 24.
40.
Next year you're only going to be at 40. You're adding 40 new ones.
Yeah. God, if we were adding 40. Somebody else would be sitting up here. No, we're just adding 4 for next year.
Okay.
Again, with it being a volunteer thing, it's really whoever chooses to add themselves to the initiative.
So we'll have, I think the plan of the 3-year is very good, and eventually getting to a point to where all new teachers will do it, because we're going to have, within the next 5 years, a lot of retirees, right? 5 to 7 years, we get a big turnover in our teaching staff, and so it'll be good to have that. So, I mean, at the end, is there any kind of data benchmark that you're looking for at the end of your 4-year plan to where we could say we're at 60, 70, 80% blended, or people are at least having taken some type of blending PD? And do you have a goal set like that?
I don't have a specific goal set. The one thing I will clarify about the 4 years is I look at that as like a rolling 4 years. It's not where are we going to be in 4 years. It's, you know, in 3 years when we hire a new person, they are going to be on their own sort of 4-year journey. So it's more looking at each person and saying individually, over 4 years, this is what you're going to receive by being a part of this program, and we expect that you're using this in your classroom.
Okay.
And we waited until after 3 years because we want, if we're hiring new teachers that are don't have experience and are coming out of student teaching, we wanted to give them some time to get their feet on the ground and learn classroom management and learn the curriculum and be able to have an opportunity to build all of that before we throw them into also learning about blended learning.
Do you feel that they're implementing blended in, I guess maybe this would be more for Dr. Smetana or even Ms. Lindquist somewhere down the line, are we seeing universities implement more blended strategies in the teacher certification programs? to where they're using more apps?
That was my question. Are they coming in with some experience or exposure?
That's a great question.
Be something we want to look into.
And something I could look into in the future. But yeah, I don't know. I will say that I know that a lot of colleges, especially post-pandemic, have started to have classes that are online. So when I've talked to some of the very new teachers, a lot of them have said that they had classes that were either totally a self-paced environment or like a flipped type of environment when they went through college. How much colleges have continued with that, I can't really attest to. But they have had those experiences going through their education where we probably have not had those experiences.
Do you find that it lends itself to certain departments more than others? I mean, I think math is where I've seen it applied most from my kids' perspective, but are there other areas where it really makes that leap well?
Yeah, so that's always tough for me to sometimes think about too, because I come from a math background, so I always think about how it applies in math. I'll say that going into the world language classes, I like fall in love every time I go into those classrooms. They don't use flipped classroom necessarily, they use a playlist, which provides so much sort of different pathways, personalization, more engagement. I could say that as a person who took 4 languages in high school and college, I wish I learned language here, because it's so much more impressive going into those classrooms and seeing how they have renovated their learning using blended. And I will say that applies in all of the departments as well. That's just really the one that's been a standout for me.
That makes sense.
30-second overview. Ready? Flipped classrooms for people watching that don't know what flipped classroom is.
Yeah, so flipped classroom is when essentially that traditional lecture is done at home, and students, when they're in class, are either working on like that traditional homework. When we think about math, it's practice problems, but they might be doing projects, discussions, collaborative things. I like to think of it as dissemination of knowledge is done through a video that students can always go back and access remotely, anywhere, anytime.
And playlist.
Playlist is when you essentially have a checklist or a personalized playlist of sorts, where students are all reaching the same end goal, but they might be getting there by going in a different order or by taking totally different paths, but still assessing the same goal and covering the same skills.
So a teacher may say, by the end of the week, I want you to have completed these 4 tasks or 5 tasks. That's a playlist. Whether that kid starts with task number 6 or the student starts with number 1, they have the blend, and the teacher walks around and supports them as they complete their various tasks on their playlist.
Yep.
Correct?
Yeah, and playlists too. They might have 10 different steps and say you only have to complete 4 of them. And for a student who's struggling, maybe it's going to be a little bit more tailored as to which 4. Or a person who's really excelling, maybe it's going to be tailored as, hey, I want you to do these higher end things. So there's a lot more targeted and like individualized learning that can happen.
Interesting.
I think we're seeing a shift generally go that direction anyway. What is the experience for the students going in to be trained on how this is a classroom that looks, and then what is the feedback that we get to find out who's having the most success versus who is struggling to be able to move through these courses with the setup being slightly different? Is there any way that we're getting feedback? Is it coming from teachers being able to see it? Is it something that's more formal from student feedback on it? Is there anything coming back that we can assess how to? I mean, it sounds like you're already in the development process of teaching teachers how to do it. I'm also wondering how students are taught. This is where you've got to start outside and get inside. So anyway, I don't know if you can speak to any of that.
Yeah, I would say from the student instruction on like how does a playlist work or how does a flipped classroom work, that's usually coming just directly from those teachers. I will say especially playlists became a lot more new this year, and students struggled with them at first. That was the common feedback from teachers, but then once they experienced it one time, and even from the teacher perspective, they're teaching it with it the first time, they work those kinks out. And we could look at having something that's more of like a streamlined process for, hey, this is how you go through a playlist, or this is what a playlist is for the student end as well. In terms of student feedback, last year I surveyed all the students who were in blended. This year I didn't. but last year the responses were extremely positive in terms of both flipped classroom and checklist style of learning. This year, teachers individually, a lot of them surveyed their classes and anecdotally said the same thing was echoed throughout their own classes. They also said in regards to some of the standardized types of tests, I know World Language reported to me that just whatever type of world language testing that they just recently did, the feedback that they got was so much better than in years past, and they suspected that it was because of the way that they had sort of designed their classroom using those playlists.
That was my question. Have we seen an increase in just better student outcomes as a result? Because now it's all individualized, and now we're teaching to the student, right, and not to whatever. Have we noticed an increase?
Yeah, I haven't looked at anything data specific to that. Almost intentionally, first
It
year
might be
going
too
in,
early.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't expect to see.
Be careful how much you know. I agree.
I'm just curious.
I agree.
Because I think
The
it'll
early
have
data
a
doesn't play
positive
much.
effect, right? Because now you're individualizing for all, not just for students with an IEP or students, right? Because I feel like this gives students the freedom to really work with
Learn the
their
way they learn best.
neurodivergent
Yeah.
tendencies, whether they've been identified formally or not. So I was just curious to see what the initial feedback was.
Yeah, again, it's anecdotally, we've had that feedback. I'll say even from my class, I teach honors pre-calc and AP calc, and back from when they were not in a flipped classroom environment to when they are, I could speak leaps and bounds about how much better those students are. But I don't want that feedback yet, or that analytics yet. I think going in 1 year, 2 years in, that data could be skewed by the fact that teachers are also still learning how to teach in those styles. So it's not just the fact that students have to learn and have this learning curve. And teachers as well, most of them will say that the things that they create that first year aren't the things that they're using their second year, because
They're brand new teachers again.
And you'll need a couple years of
Yeah.
outcomes
Yeah,
then
you're
too.
starting
so-
off again.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Could you look at pass rate, or is that too subjective?
I mean, pass rate on just in
Just
general.
overall class, semester pass rate, or would that be too subjective? Dr. Smetana is more my data person that I bounce this stuff off of, but I'm just wondering if that would still be subjective. But I think with a blended room, right, there's not as much participation. You have to complete the playlist or the checklist, right? So you have to be achieving individual benchmarks.
That
So
could
I'd be
certainly be
interested
one
to
data
see
point.
if that would be interesting, if there's a higher pass rate.
Yeah, also, I mean, there are a lot of soft skills that hopefully would improve with this as well, such as, student ownership and advocacy.
So it's not just the grades, but also what else is being
And you can't rely
collaboration.
strictly on test scores either, because like of the 12 teachers, right, some of them were elective classes, and so it would be hard to look at, test scores across the board until it became more mainstream. Like world languages, for example, is a good department because they're a smaller department, and so the percent of their department participating is rather high right now.
It's 100.
Yeah, but a lot of them joined this year. We had a lot of newcomers this year. So we could certainly do something in the future. We'd have to sit down and come up with a list of what we wanted to look at, and then gather some data on it.
Yep.
But I did want to add, in speaking to the students about, the flexing, they feel like they're being treated as college students. You kind of hear it, right? Right, you learn at home and then you have the discussion, right? Very similar to kind of, they feel like they're young adults. They feel that they're getting ready for college. I mean, our teachers are preparing them for the next journey that we always preach, As far as the data, I'm sure, we have more work to look in depth, but I just look at our overall school report card. I look at our overall, graduation rate, freshmen on track. I look at, AP participation, and where they're holding or rising. This is something I fundamentally believe in. Thank you, Mr. Dybus and other 36 teachers. And we want to grow this. We want blended learning to be the practice. So AdFLA is working, but we have some more homework to do.
And Mr. Dybus, we're working so that teachers that might not be fully all in can still do PD, right? Can do PD and blended. I guess what I'm saying is that was something you and I had talked about continuing to grow. Right, because I could watch a video on YouTube and then I try to change my oil, I could really mess up my car. Right, but if I take some PD on maybe how to teach blended or how to teach a specific method of blended. Teachers will grow, and then maybe their interest will grow. They become full parts of the program.
Yeah, and I'll also say the peer evaluation group has really helped with that as well. There's a lot of, maybe a singleton who was doing blended, and then people go into the room and say, oh, okay, yeah, I want to do this. So for the staff members who are not new staff members, there's always going to be a game of trying to catch them up and lure them in. And I'll say that the 36 other teachers have been great about helping with that as well, to try and collect more people and bring them on board.
I have one suggestion for reaching the parents, because this is relatively new. Because I know when my son last year was in a classroom with a playlist, I'm like, what do you mean you have to pick and choose and do it? Just some sort of explanation. Like, they often send home those contracts at the beginning that you have to sign off on. Perhaps a better explanation of, like, hey, I'm teaching this in a flipped or a playlist type style, meaning just like you gave that 30-second explanation, so that the parents that read those things before they sign it kind of know what their son or daughter will be getting into, just to inform the parents. Because as a parent, when you see this, you're like, why are you watching math videos? What are you doing in school? So they were able to explain it to me, but not all kids will explain it. So just...
No, that's great. Thank you.
I think there's a chance for teachers of any subject and area right now can kind of dive in and test it regardless of being formally in the system, right? I mean, putting videos on Schoology or whatever you're using is not the hardest thing to do to give something. But I would second that, is making sure that the students are trained to know that the onus goes on them, that ownership part. I don't need to get into my own anecdotes, but trying to make sure that students understand there's a job to do and then how to follow up. But I think it's a great system if everybody is well informed. So
I think the
good
biggest
luck
thing parents
as we grow.
concerned about having a high school age student that does this as well is like, right, what if my kid falls behind, or what if they don't do their playlist, or if they're not given their, right? But it really does kind of self-pace, self-correct.
Well, and when we had the social sciences, I think they do it in some of their classes, and they explained it very well, that they monitor the students and they encourage them to try different things on the playlist and not just always choose the first thing.
Right.
So, but just getting that out to the broader group rather than the few adults that are here. So.
Is there something in the curriculum guide that has like 2-sentence definitions of these?
There's not at this moment, but one of the things that Mike and Kevin are working on this summer is updating the general technology website on 1-to-1, and then one of Kevin's goals for next year. This is a goal Kevin came up with himself.
Goal,
Okay.
so it's okay.
She was looking at you like she was about to surprise you with something.
Didn't know if you wanted to jump in. Was to work with RBTV to create like a blended learning website for the school, so that parents could go there in addition to, additional parent communication at the beginning of the year is also important, but then to complement that, Kevin was going to work with RBTV to create some videos and create a blended learning app.
Because you have to be careful of the whole curriculum thing is, we both could be teaching U.S. history, and I'm blended, you're not.
No, I'm not married
Right,
to the
so
curriculum guide. I was saying additional
just somewhere for a
communication channels,
resource,
because
yeah.
not every kid's going to bring that paper home. Not every teacher gives the paper, so you need to have a couple different avenues.
I think
to
the
meet
exciting
them.
thing about this, going back to you, Mike, I don't want to leave you out of this conversation. is we started 1-to-1. First year when we piloted was like
2015 maybe?
2015, I think. And I think we rolled it out in 2016.
So 10 years, almost 8 to 10 years later, here we are. We're talking flipped classrooms. We're talking kids flexing out of classrooms. 36 teachers doing full-blown blended. That was our goal, right? And so kudos to everybody that had a hand in this. And there were people that are no longer in these roles that also helped build the foundation. So thank you to everybody. Because that was one of those things that came in and said, Mike, we got to go 1-to-1 and we need more Wi-Fi access, right? When I first got here, you're like, well, yeah, might have caused the system overload on you. But look, and now we're talking switches at board meetings and UPSs, and so we've come a long way, Mike. Yep. Good job.
Thank you.
Kevin, do you want to touch briefly on all the other things you do outside of blended?
You mean the rest of the things on here? Yeah, so some key other things. I provided professional development on formative.com, which is a feedback and differentiation tool. Also on Brisk AI, we're pretty excited for this tool. That's an AI feedback and also planning tool. So it really helps with giving like individualized support for writing skills, but really immediate. We purchased, between last year and this year, some new wireless writing tablets for classroom instruction. We've had tablets for classroom instruction, but they were from before I worked at RB, and I've been here 12 years. And then some things in the future, again, just continuing the 4-year blended learning plan. Over this summer, I'm building like a professional development course, which will essentially be all of the professional development in one little book, so that it's rolled out and ready for new staff members once they join the blended learning program. Focusing again next year on data-driven instruction and future-ready learning. Continuing to grow the number of students, student flex locations, and staff members. And then also for next year, we are looking to begin piloting touchscreen Chromebooks to explore their possibility, their possible benefits to student learning, much like Dr. Skinkas was just saying about going one-to-one 8 or 9 years ago, just looking at what the future could have and what technology and software could be leveraged. And then continuing to explore new technology tools or programs that can be implemented effectively.
I'm sure Dr. Smetana is looking at this from not only budget, but also operational, like if we're piloting tablet Chromebooks, we got a tablet repairing, what is it to repair tablet Chromebooks, and what's the insurance, right? Because that's all part of our parent-student board sharing, co-sharing, one-to-one that they pay each year for their technology. So we just want to make sure there's a process.
We don't have those touchscreen Chromebooks at this point. This would be a
We're
purchase in 24.
going to pilot them.
Correct.
With
We're
freshmen next year?
piloting a cart of, no, we're piloting them with a cart
Okay.
next year. Kevin's going to pilot them in his classroom. We have, I believe, an English teacher that's going to pilot them in her classroom, because we want to see the functionality. Certainly, as a former math teacher, it makes a lot of sense to have a touch screen in a math classroom, but how can they be utilized in other disciplines? Because before we come back and say there's also an added insurance cost and the devices are more expensive, and so we want to increase the technology fee, we want to make sure we have a good reason for doing it and that there's a lot of benefits for students to do so. So that's one of the purposes of the pilot. And so Kevin will be managing that to get that in as many teachers' hands as possible in multiple disciplines to see if that's something that we think is beneficial to move forward with.
I have a question, because it seems like this is where we're going and we want to encourage all teachers we want to eventually get them all here. And I think the individualization is awesome, because I think students really, from my perspective, learn more this way. Are there any particular departments who are having a hard time adapting it? Like, does this refresh my memory? Is this set up to work for like the fine arts, for math, for English, for CTE? Are there currently teachers from all of the programs represented?
Yes.
Okay.
There's somebody in every department. I think fine arts is the only one that maybe has one person or two people, smaller department.
Okay.
But in general, if we think about it from divisions, there's a lot of people in every division, across all departments, across all learning tracks. So everything from co-taught courses up to AP courses, and across freshmen through seniors.
Okay. Just trying to get a picture of.
Right, no, that's a
I
good
was going to say,
question.
it's even in wellness classes, it's been a huge benefit to
I have
health.
the wellness class, and it was pretty good, the way they did it.
Want to make sure everyone's
Yeah.
taking advantage of it.
Mhm. Any more questions, comments? I appreciate you being here on your first week of summer.
First day off.
First day off,
Right.
right.
We'll speak to the board from 7 to 7. Good job, Kevin.
Thank you, Mr.
Thanks, everybody.
Davis.
Mike, good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Touchscreen Chromebooks, what next?
So the next item in my report is the wellness report. The RBHS Wellness Committee was formed to meet the requirements set forth by a public act, which also is in alignment with our board policy. The report was compiled and the Wellness Committee is chaired by the teacher leader for wellness, who is Jason Reck. And it's a lengthy report. I'm not going to read it, but I do want to point out a few highlights. So we had 91 people complete the annual wellness screening, which is great. We coordinate that through our insurance, and flu shots were also available to all staff. We tried to do this event at the end of September before flu season is in full steam ahead. Coffee bar that Quest installed was a huge hit. They also had a lot of other improvements this year. They improved their point of sale system that we switched to, which operates in real time, so parents can add money immediately as opposed to like sending their kid to RB with a check and then waiting a day or two for that to get processed. We moved to online ordering for staff, which was well received and helpful for them. And then lastly, I did want to point out for Quest that they do anticipate a small increase in many of their items to keep up with rising food costs. So I outlined them. A majority of them are increasing by 25 to 50 cents. Other things to note, Yoga for Wellness has continued on a weekly offering, so that's an opportunity that one of our wellness teachers, Marissa Dobberton, offers every week for our staff after school. We had another staff member that wanted to coordinate staff pickleball, which started in March, which is a huge hit also after school. And then the wellness department, one of the highlights from them, conducted their first annual RB PE Madness basketball tournament. At the same time, we had March Madness going, and they had a winner for each of the 7 school periods. So just a way to re-engage students, and something that a lot of them are following on a day-to-day basis during March. You can read the whole report at your leisure, but I just wanted to point out a few highlights. Also in my report, which is very lengthy, the Facility Advisory Council met on May 22nd to discuss the quarterly business review from Aramark. So I provided that for the board so that you could review. I just wanted at this time to thank Aramark for all they do. They often work really hard behind the scenes to make RB look beautiful, whether it's the day-to-day cleaning or completing special projects. They often go above and beyond. I just wanted to make sure that we thank them for all they do, both their managers, Berm and Genty, and the entire staff as well.
Yeah, please pass on, I think, on behalf of the board. The building looks wonderful. I mean, they do incredible work. And I know that they also save us some money by taking on projects throughout the year. I saw their list of pending work here, which is...
We've already scheduled them for the entire
I was going to say,
summer
that's
with lots of
not much of a summer for them, right? They have a lot going on.
This is, yeah, they
It's
are
our busy
like-
time, for sure.
This is where the pedal to the metal for Aramark. Well, it's really year-round, right? When kids are here as well, too.
Yes, they do it. They schedule projects during winter break, spring break, I mean, any chance they can
And also
get.
these pictures have like the floor looking like glass. I'm not sure what lighting they use, but it's really pretty impressive.
It's also,
Yeah.
well, it's what it looks like before, after they clean it, before students come back. It
Magical 20
really
minutes.
does look like that, yes, for 20 minutes.
Just as I flip through this, I'm like, oh my gosh, those floors are amazing.
Next, I included the paid facility rentals for third quarter. For third quarter, the district collected $30,961 in revenue and expended $5,992. Of this revenue, a majority of it came from facility charges, or facility space charges, and when you look at that, a majority of this was from the aquatic center, the Bullets program, followed by the stadium usage as well. So year to date, the district, for just looking at the third quarter, first, second, third, the district has collected $67,304 and has expended $15,394. So the surplus from the rentals is used to offset costs related to the upkeep of facilities, like redoing floors in the gym and things of that nature for the spaces that are utilized. Next is just an informational item. that I included. One of the items that I've been having conversations with is discussing baseball field at Eller Park with the Village of Brookfield, as well as the Western Conference, who also utilizes that field to discuss various repairs to address both safety and game conditions. I don't have any additional information at this time, something that I'll be coming to with more information once this gets underway, but we've had a few conversations now, so I just wanted to call it to the board's attention that that is our home field for baseball, and it is, they also have a field that we now have started to play softball at as well for our varsity athletes as well as sophomores. And there's just a lot of repairs that need to happen in order to address some of the safety concerns there. So we're in preliminary discussions on how to best address those.
In August, I'll celebrate my 48th birthday. And 36 years ago in August, I played in the 12U Overhault, and those are the same dugouts, some of the same fences, some of the same press box, and there's some like, we're getting to a point, we use that for all of our varsity home games, JV games when varsity is on the road, and now we're using the girls' field for varsity softball, which is, so a lot of this, it's well overdue. The village is unique in that they own the land, but between Brookfield Little League and Western Conference, they kind of maintain. The village really only maintains the parks, you know, and some of the general landscaping. So we've, for the 13 years that I've been here, we work out a deal with Western Conference, or they work out a deal with, like, where we'll pay us, you know, anywhere from $6,000 to as much as $12,000 a year. We'll try to do one renovation last year or 2 years, right before the pandemic, was a warning track. We contributed an extra like $8,000 or $10,000, and we're trying to do a little bit at a time. But it's getting to a point where like the fences are curled up, the press boxes, you know, the dugouts flood when it rains. There's not a drain in the dugouts, so we're at a point to where we're looking at, you know, how can we do maybe a three-way partnership between ourselves, Western Conference, and the village to renovate that field. Now, what the board has to be, you know, prepared for from a board perspective is whatever repairs, we need to do similar repairs then under Title IX to the girls' field. I think as long as we have a plan where we're phasing this in so that both fields get addressed, I think we'll be okay for that. But this is something that we definitely have to keep an eye on. Second of all, I know we still are in negotiations and still in discussions with the zoo. Even if the perfect storm aligned and we were able to acquire the field or become the permanent tenant of the field next door to us, we would still need to use these Elhurt fields because there's no way you could do a varsity home game on both fields. Like they used to do it in the past, but with some of the changes that have been made for the parking and it would be unsafe. So there could be opportunities to, even when one team could be using the home zoo, the zoo's field, another team would still need to be at Elhurt. So it's not like we're being short-sighted and possibly contributing to these renovations. It would still become a primary facility for us to use for both boys and girls softball.
Well, and I would suggest that the field safety needs are going to be a lot more pressing than whenever we get access to a zoo field.
Right.
I mean, they're pretty serious. I think even this last season saw some stuff. Who pays for the annual field update now? Is that Brookfield? Don't we have the IGA with them?
So we do not pay a rent. We work with Western Conference, and they are marked between field maintenance and buying of supplies and sharing of supplies.
Who does like the screen, the preseason?
Western Conference.
Okay.
Western Conference does a lot of the field work there. JR will fill in a little bit there. In return, we don't get charged for the use of the field. And then the village gets to use the pool one day a week for their day camp, and then we've also worked out something with them in a classroom. At North Riverside, they had the intergovernmental agreement where they get the pool on Sundays and then 1 day a week for their day camp. And the reason they get the extra day was because we don't pay anything. They use their people, their public works department as well as their supplies.
Okay.
So.
I had forgotten until you started talking about the agreement we have with Brookfield.
So North Riverside is like, it used to be home to varsity softball, freshman baseball, and JV softball. Now it's more JV softball, lower level baseball, and Ellert's become primarily the varsity complex for varsity softball, varsity baseball.
Makes sense.
Dr. Smetana, I haven't, maybe I should, President Zalis, I think the bond presentation could take a little longer than Dr. Freitas's bowling presentation.
Okay.
Maybe cover that, and then we have bonds later in the agenda, maybe we can get it.
Well, yeah, that's why I think we wanted to take the bond out of order, but let's do bowling over bonds. Is that okay with everyone?
Greetings again,
Okay.
honorable board members.
No hesitation on that?
Yeah, I'd like to invite our interim assistant principal of athletics, Mr. Dan Jones, who will give an overview of our proposal for girls and boys bowling.
He's
And
welcome to stay for a bonding discussion.
And the board will have the unique opportunity to add 2 more sports to the offerings that we have. Mr. Jones?
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to my short presentation, hopefully. This is a 3-year process. As my understanding, it's 3 years for it to come before the board. It started off, girls and boys bowling started off as a club, self-funded, and a volunteer from one of the teachers to introduce the sport of bowling. And that was very successful for those 2 years. And this 3rd year now, we're looking to add it to the athletic choices for our athletes. Before we brought this to the board, though, we did do an interest survey in January just to double check that we're not robbing Peter to pay Paul, to say we're stealing basketball athletes or other winter athletes, wrestlers, to form a bowling team. So we did an interest survey in which students were only able to choose 1 sport for their choice for each season, and then we compared that to what the athletes were doing currently, and we saw that if we do add bowling, it will be offered, it looks like, to brand new students that are not currently in a sport. So that's pretty exciting, giving them the opportunity to compete in a sport they may not be ever involved with. We're also going into a new conference, the Upstate 8. We would be the 9th boys bowling team and the 11th girls bowling team if this comes to fruition. So the conference is very strong for bowling. It is an IHSA sport. There is a state tournament. And we've listed the number of matches they could participate in, and I've also listed the potential numbers based on our survey, and also the 8th grade night we did a informal survey at a bowling table also. On the last couple pages is the fees that would be the revenue and the expenditures for bowling. We would be off-site at a bowling alley. I was not part of the process of gathering the pricing from the bowling alley, and I'm not sure which alley it is or which lane. They call it bowling lanes now. Where they would be, where that is located, in case you were going to ask that question. I'm not sure of that one.
I believe it was Bolero on 47th and Joliet Road.
Yes, in the Township of Lyons.
Right.
Yes.
My counterpart did that part, so but it is pretty on par with what we paid at my former school and what other schools pay for use of the lanes for practices and for events. I think I hit everything I wanted to hit. I think I'll open it to any questions.
So the schools in the conference said there's 9 boys and 11 girls. So I mean, with Title IX, like, what are they? Is there other sports that they're obviously? There must be a boys sport they're offering somewhere else that they're then offsetting it with only doing girls volleyball. Or girls bowling?
Bowling? No,
I
you
just
can,
found that kind of weird, like it wouldn't be balanced or.
no, you would probably be looking to add a girls sport because of the numbers you're wanting to add. So girls bowling, very easy to add a girls sport for participation.
If you don't have girls wrestling, for instance, or something.
Yeah.
Okay. And they're both winter sports?
Yes.
That's unusual in the IHSA world, right? To have the boys and girls seasons together, or is that?
There's some that are boys and girls bowling. Yeah, everything else is pretty split, but because there's enough bowling lanes and you're off-site, it doesn't contradict with fields like girls and boys soccer would conflict with using the same fields at the school.
But do they schedule together?
Sometimes we do, yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes we will.
Just like track sometimes,
Yes.
boys and girls
Mhm.
have this events.
Yeah, if the lane can handle it, and they don't have a lot of public lanes those days, we would have home events or away events together. Correct.
So having a varsity and a JV team, 12 participate. You said it'd take 20 to 25.
You could bowl 6 bowlers at an event, and then sometimes in duels they'll bowl extras. But like if you go to a
Does it
tournament.
become a cut sport, or is this?
No, usually you keep as many bowlers as you can, and then you just rotate them in. Like I said, sometimes you'll have a home meet where you add extra lanes, and the other team will have extra bowlers too, and you'll bowl those extra bowlers.
A second.
Yes, like a
JV1,
JV2.
JV2.
Yeah,
Right, okay.
like we do in wrestling. Like, hey, you got a 158-pounder. I've got an extra guy that hasn't wrestled. Let's let him wrestle.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see the comment there'd be no conflict or strain on facilities. What about on transportation, if this is a minibus sport?
Well, hopefully the new minibuses that we've purchased will be coming in eventually. And in the winter, the other teams, we looked at that. It would be gymnastics would be using it. With the 3 minibuses, we wouldn't have that conflict. All the other teams travel on yellow buses.
The other good thing about winter is most of those start later, where like spring you're trying to beat sunlight with some of the sports, and so right, you're leaving right after school. That's where we tend to have our problem with busing, even with outside buses. So this being a little later, you could stagger the start time into 5 o'clock or 5:30.
Yep. Yes.
Have these stipends, I should have asked this to you earlier, Dr. Skinkis, have they been discussed with the stipend committee or the RBEA? Which stipend category would they fall in?
They would fall in category C, the lowest category. That's where we usually put new season,
New
athletic
activities.
teams, right?
Similar to what you guys did for lacrosse.
Correct. And I believe this also helped us getting into our conference as well.
Mhm.
That we would be willing to take this on. That's why we were having, because even the South Suburban that we were exploring is a big bowling conference, and they wanted us to have bowling. So that's why we ran it for 2 years as a volunteer club.
And the participation numbers were strong.
Correct.
Mhm.
So this is for informational purposes this evening?
Presentation is there.
Yeah.
There is a request to approve the stipends later under new business, so that we can post them and use the summer. If we needed 2 reads, we could take 2 reads. Correct? Could we approve it in July?
Mhm.
If we needed to.
Yep.
If the board needed 2 reads. Actually, you'd have tonight.
You could do it in like the later June, right?
Correct. So
I
we
would
post it
suggest
for
that, just
July.
since we have 2 people missing this evening, it is a new initiative, unless someone disagrees. I don't think there's any urgency to do it.
Yeah, let's think about this. So,
Okay.
because now it would be an overall cost of $10,614 to the district. Right? Am I reading this correctly?
Yeah.
I really thought I was gonna get away with not saying much today. I know we've got the budget that we got for first read. I know that we've got our music parents here. I can only imagine what's gonna be said tonight. And I am completely fine with, the ask for the bowling club, the ask for the culinary lab, the ask for, there was something there was one more thing that was asked for today. Just a lot of asks. And this might not be the right moment to say this, but we're still gonna not approve the part-time music teacher to be full-time. there's a lot of asks coming in, and I feel that let's do it. But then we've got the one group who's been here every single board meeting for the past year that we're not paying attention to, and we're just blatantly disregarding. I'm all for bowling. This is great. But what's the saying? Sorry, I'm not from here. But you rob Peter to pay Paul. Like, so now we're just swirling money around instead of saying, hey, this is the music program that's been asking us diligently every single school board meeting. And we're just going to disregard them and say, yay, bowling, yay, culinary lab, yay, that. It feels disingenuous. And I don't even know what to say anymore, right? I was trying really hard not to say anything today, but if you saw my facial expressions, they were all over the place. And I just feel like this just had to just, again, come out. I'm all for bowling. Let's do it, right? Students need an outlet.
And these are new students that aren't in.
So
They're not in a sport.
Correct. Correct.
that's awesome. Yes, absolutely. Let's support them. We talked about blended learning. We talked about flex. I tried getting there, right? Like, is this available for everybody? Because my question at the next meeting was going to be, how are we going to ensure that we do blended and flex learning and playlists and all of that in a music program where more support is needed in order to be able to do the playlist and in order to be able to do the blended learning. But I was going to save that for next meeting, but I need to get it out now. So again,
So are you asking
I'm asking why
for
can't we
a
just
vote on a different?
no vote? I'm just saying, can we really again reconsider changing our stance on funding that music teacher, the third music teacher, to be full-time?
So I think I hear what you're saying, but my first reaction is there's a process here. Bowling has a process, right? It's gone through 2 years.
Right.
It shows growth. It shows participation as part of the conference. They're a bit apples and oranges because the music discussion is about a change from the current process. Right? This is about following a process that's established about adding a sport. What you're suggesting on the music side is about taking the process that's established for staffing and
That we've
not following
established
it.
and we could change if we so desire and if we want to support the music
But
program.
it would have to be applied to every subject across the board. So you would have language and you would have other areas where there are less
And my
students.
next question to the blended learning for next time is that going to impact staffing either positively or negatively? Right? Is it going to say, well, now there's blended learning, we could have a bigger class size? Or now there's blended learning, we're going to need smaller class sizes. I don't know. I haven't taught in a while, so I don't know where the trends are going. But could it potentially be, right? In 5 years, we're going to be talking about, oh, it's okay to have a bigger class size because we've got the blended learning thing going on. So there's no need. Or could we potentially say now, let's have the blended learning fully present in the music classes and just make the full-time teacher the part-time teacher a full-time teacher. And I get the apples and oranges, and we could spin words all we want. From my seat, from where I'm sitting, it's ask to add a process, a sport, whatever, and we're like, yes, let's do it. And then it's the one ask that we've been getting that we really are choosing to just ignore. And it feels very disingenuous to sit here, and they're up next, and we're gonna hear from them, and we're still gonna sit here and not listen. And again, I just again had to come out because it's a lot of asks today. Again, the boosters are asking us to hold the money and okay, yes, we'll do it because maybe we'll get a screen. So like we're very agreeable to everything and everybody, it seems, except the one parent group that's been here day in and day out for the past year.
I would say this is something that needs to be, the process has to happen, but there has been 2+ years of increased support beyond what the numbers had called for. So this discussion, while I think you're clearly stating that you want to have it, it's been had with regard to where we are and why we are at the point that we have it now based on increased support. So
has it been a discussion though? It doesn't feel like there has been a real discussion where we really take into account the concerns that
what are the
parents
things that
bring
you're
us.
looking to add to the discussion? Because that's what we need to add in the time that we have a chance to add a new discussion point for the next meeting.
I
I
just
don't
really
know what it would be that you're asking to be reconsidered, because the process happens in November and then February, March.
and we can stand and we can hold that line all year long, but at the
It's
end
not
of the
about holding
day,
that line, it's what we have done.
But at the end of the day, we keep getting new requests, and we're going to approve all of the new requests, right?
But they're not new requests.
These are-
Because this was,
Yes, it's 2 years in the making. I get it.
Right.
Yes, and so now here we are at $10,000. The culinary lab, that's a newer request, and we're going to go ahead because there's an increased number of students. So yes, fine, we'll do that. The solar panels, absolutely, because there's a need for that, right? So again, I don't want anybody to think that I'm not pro solar panels or pro culinary lab or pro bowling team. I'm all of that. I'm just also pro let's get that third music teacher up to full time, because we clearly can if we so choose.
but I guess what I'm struggling with is what's the process to follow to get to that third music teacher?
We support the ask, we support the request, we look at the benefits of having the smaller class size for the music teachers. We look at everything that's been presented to us, and we say, okay, so yes, maybe we should try it, because there's clear benefits to having the music program the way it is. We love to say they were at graduation. They didn't have, the school year was over, and there they were. They were at every send-off this year. They were at all of the music events. Students themselves came one after another.
But you could say the same thing about football. They practice before school started.
So
We're not going to take comments from the floor.
again, you know, I just and the baseball. We're now gonna go fix Eller Park, right? So that was the other thing that was slipping my mind. Again, and I'm not saying don't support others, but why are we being so so against listening to the requests that have come to us every single month?
I don't want you to position as being anti.
Right.
I think
I'm not positioning us as that.
Said we were anti.
You just did.
And we have voted to support the music program beyond what our sectioning numbers would have otherwise been for the last 2 years by a fair amount, with an understanding that there was a process that we were going through to give support above and beyond. So
And it's been
now hearing that we would, I don't know if it's, that's why I'm asking, take a vote, but are we just going to the idea of just take the vote to go up or down, yes or no?
So I don't.
Beyond,
If I called for a vote, I apologize. I'm just, there was no vote asked. My question was, or the intent behind all of this is, there have been so many asks that have been coming in tonight that I can't believe we still are where we are with the music ask, and we're okay with accepting all of these other asks.
What
And
are we not supporting?
if this is all we can do, then I'm only one vote, so the vote doesn't even matter at this point, right? Because it'll, like when we vote for the budget, it'll be approved, whether we agree with it, whether I agree with it or not. I've been reminded that I'm only one person on the board, and that's okay. But again, because all of these requests have been coming in tonight, I just had to put it out there that it is.
You have to leave the door open for a public meeting. Yeah, you could, as long as you leave it open a little bit.
Thanks.
Anyway, I apologize for derailing us, but I couldn't believe that yet another ask was coming in tonight.
So I think the board meetings are a series of asks, right? Because we're running a district. And so there's always going to be asks, because the budget is a living document. But at least from where I sit, there's a process behind every aspect of the budget. And I am very respectful of procedures and policy. And if you're suggesting how we do sectioning across all departments is what you want to address, I brought this up as a policy discussion at the last board meeting. Do we want to look at minimum class allocations? And no one had any suggestions or changes to that discussion. That's where the board actually intersects with class size. It's not on making a class size larger due to a blended learning model, which is not at all what we heard today, and I don't want that to be a takeaway. But I look at the millions of dollars that we allocate and spend and account for on an annual basis, and it's $10,000 for bowling, right? But it's part of a larger athletic program. It's hundreds of thousands in other investments across the district, including music. And so I'm just challenged trying to understand what the ask, or if you were to ask for a vote, what it would be on.
On ensuring that the music program gets a third full-time teacher.
So to deviate from the current staffing process for one particular department.
So when you phrase it that way, yeah, we're gonna deviate and we're gonna do culinary. We're gonna do a culinary lab for one department. And that's
But for the sections that have driven
a hefty bill. But yes, I've asked for how many of the students go on to do culinary. I finally got the clearinghouse data, but it's not clear of the 79% of the students, 79.8% of the students that go on to a 4-year or a 2-year, it's not clear who goes where. And I think that's what I had asked for. I just got 2 percentages. So again, nothing against the culinary lab. Absolutely, if there's a need, yes. It's not one or the other. It's why can't we do all? Why can't we ensure that the music program gets that third full-time position? So again, it might have been out of order. I apologize for not bringing this up last time. It's just today, sitting here, ask after ask after ask. I was like, wait a minute. What about these asks is different than the ask from the music parents or the music department?
So my answer to that is there's a process behind this. The music ask is a deviation from the standard allocation of staff. So to understand why we would deviate from that, I need to understand what makes music special compared to drawing, compared to language, compared to other classes that have similar constraints that we do make staffing decisions on. And
when we go by our staffing metric, we are at 2.2. We are not supporting it at 2.2. So I don't know why going from the need at 2.2.
So we can't go that extra step?
No, the point of going
get
the
it to
extra step
3.0?
right now is to go to 2.6 with the understanding, and this is where any teacher that is qualified to teach music, and if there were a teacher who could teach music and English or history or whatever it would be, would have that flexibility. Unfortunately, we don't. My understanding is we don't currently have that. Either a music teacher who's certified in another, or another teacher who's certified in music, where we have that ability. But right now, we are going above what the. This is from my recollection, so I'm having to go from the idea that it was 2.2 and now being supported at 2.6. So I don't understand why we're already giving support and then being asked to do effectively. Well, if it's 4/10 that we're supporting, then you're asking for double that to go beyond. So I am sympathetic to the argument that music is important. I have no argument against that. I mean, as a matter of fact, there's a ton of research on just people's brains developing in a very well-rounded and high-achieving way when you're involved in music and performing arts. And we are already supporting it at a level beyond what our FTE metrics. So I guess I'm feeling slightly frustrated that it appears by my, I'll call it pushback, that I'm against it when that's the furthest thing from the truth. I'm supporting this, and I believe that my votes have shown that in the past. But now to say that something else that comes in is robbing Peter to pay Paul is, I don't believe, accurate in what I'm trying to do as a person on this board trying to support the well-rounded education of our 1,600 plus students. So I understand the desire to just say, let's do this. I also would like to know that we have solutions that get beyond a one-year Band-Aid. Anyway, I don't have to go longer.
Anyway, again, it was a reaction to all of the asks that we have gotten tonight.
So, again, this is clearly a first read. We appreciate you presenting it. I think if there are specific questions, my understanding, my final follow-up on bowling would be, this would be then a one-year trial program as sport, as I understood the write-up.
Correct.
So it would not be a commitment beyond 1 year. It'd be a commitment to understand what the engagement would be. We had strong club engagement, and then once it was a sport, if there was a drop in participation or some type of precipitous drop, then the next year we would not necessarily be committed to it. And our teacher contract supports that, so the stipend would be for the year while the sport existed.
And that's what we did for lacrosse?
Yes. And it took it 1 year at a time.
And board members, I would like to recognize Mr. Phil McGovern, our English teacher, who's been spearheading the bowling journey for the last 2+ years. Yeah, we definitely have people that are interested, but I mean, Phil organized it, recruited the students, led all the initial events. I was a part in supporting him and the students, but I'm very proud of our English teacher, Mr. Phil McGovern, and what he's done for bowling.
And he would be doing the girls and the boys? Is that the? We don't know. It need to be posted as a.
It'd be posted, correct? Yes.
Could one individual coach boys and girls, or is it a two-person?
It depends on
the way
numbers.
It's costed out, it's two people, right?
Let's see what we have.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm going to suggest that we hold that till next meeting. Everyone agrees?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to go through your bond presentation now, Dr. Smetana?
Sure. Please. It's a big part of our business.
Sure.
Well, it ties into the subject about asks, so I think it's important to go through that.
Mary Ann, if you go to board book page 225, I believe. So as the board knows, after exploring 2 capital projects over the last month, installing solar panels and creating a second culinary lab to accommodate growth in the program, the district has decided to move forward with both capital projects in the 24-25 school year. While the district currently has a good tax base for its operating expenditures, there would be a need to withdraw from the working cash fund, which is the district's reserve fund, to complete both projects. This fund's role is similar to a savings account, as it provides reserve funds for delayed property tax collections or other foreseen expenditures that may arise. The email from the township treasurer with the delay in almost $1 million of revenue is a perfect example of one of my concerns for the need for cash should something like that arise. We're not always given advanced notice. So while the district has sufficient reserve fund balance to cover the cost of both capital projects, we have to have some cash on hand for withdrawal for unforeseen issues like a delay in property tax, things of that nature. So attached is a presentation outlining a funding option for the district, issuing a tax-exempt working cash bond for capital projects only in the amount of $2 million. Issuing such a bond would allow the district to only have to use $2 million from its reserve fund balance, limiting the exposure of unforeseen expenditures. This plan is structured to provide property tax decrease to community members over the next 3 years. The district's bond counsel, Elizabeth Hennessy from Raymond James, could not be here tonight. So she'll be here at the June 11th board meeting, but she did provide a presentation, and I'd like to take a few minutes to go over the presentation so that you have an opportunity to see it tonight, but then also again when she's here on June 11th. This was also reviewed with the Finance Advisory Council last week as well. So Marianne, if you could go to board book page 229, jumping into the presentation. This is a market update which provides current interest rates, although we expect these to improve in September before the district would issue bonds. On 2 pages next, you'll see that the district has roughly $16 million outstanding in bond principal, and we have the capacity to issue more debt. The next page outlines debt payments that are existing. So you can see that of that $16 million.
Next page.
Thank you. You can see that of the 16 roughly $16 million outstanding in bond principals, about $5 million is set to be repaid in December of 2024, $3 million in 2025, and then the remaining debt for the district is paid off in December of 2027. And that debt is in 2027 is from the referendum bonds. So the next page shows the current tax rates. Since the district has some bonds coming off the books in 2024, the taxpayer would receive a decrease of $252 on their property tax. And all of this analysis is done on a $400,000 home. If the district does absolutely nothing and lets that debt just come off the books. What we're proposing, which you'll see in a few slides, is to spread that savings out so that the district has money for their capital projects, as well as any unforeseen issues that may arise with cash flow, while the taxpayers still receive a savings each year. If the board decides to ultimately do nothing and not issue bonds, but then we decide down the line that we need them for something, the taxpayer would experience an increase in their property taxes. The next page is a graphical representation of what you just saw. So the navy blue bars are the referendum debt. The green bars are our current life safety bonds. So you can see with those coming off in 2024, the green bar disappears. You can see the light blue line. That is our debt service extension base. So while a previous slide showed that we had the capacity to issue $44 million in debt, that's really not true. So this light blue line shows what the district can issue without going to referendum. So the district can never go above the light blue line unless we were to go to a referendum. And that line is roughly about $2 million of payments. So since there is nothing below the blue line in 2024, the district has the capacity to issue debt going up to that blue line in the future. On the next page, so while we've talked about the 2 major capital improvement projects, solar panels and the culinary lab, these bonds can go towards any capital improvement projects, and we have capital improvement projects every year. One of the other projects that we need to get accomplished next year, ideally, is improving the security in the loading dock doors to enhance security to our building. And then to also address other capital requests like replacing carpet in the band room, purchasing equipment, whether it's new pianos or lighting for RBTV, etc. Those things are all capital improvement requests. Every year we receive requests from staff as well, and we try to look through those to see what's necessary and then what we can also fund. So these funds could be used for other capital projects outside of the two big ones that have been talked about a lot at the board. We also will need to replace some older roofs starting in 2029. We did a lot of roof repairs, but there's some older sections from, I believe, 2008 and 2009 from around the renovation that need to be replaced. On the next page, this just really outlines there are 4 types of non-referendum bonds. The bonds that we are talking about tonight are working cash bonds. On the next page, you'll see that the district would issue the working cash bonds on a tax-exempt basis, which means that the funds must only be used for capital projects. The proceeds of this type of bond are prohibited for payments for operating expenditures such as salaries, benefits, purchase services, etc. On the next page, this is the proposed impact of the taxpayer issuing a $2 million working cash tax exempt bond for capital projects.
Marianne, can you slide the cursor over so they see the last row? It's important
The
you
column
see
to
it.
the right. Maybe make it.
Maybe make it a little
Maybe
smaller.
just-
They need to see the last on the sheet, Mary.
Just need to.
Or is it on? Is it visible?
I think it's on there.
No,
Yeah, I
it's
think you
on
can
there.
see it.
I would say blow it up instead of make it smaller.
Talking about the
Because it's just
proposed
the
impact
column,
on
the
the home,
proposed
right?
impact.
Yeah, you can see that. Oh,
Now scroll
Yeah,
over
now scroll
to the
left.
other way, please.
There it is.
There you go.
So the proposed issuance of $2 million working cash tax exempt bond for capital projects, you'll see that in addition to limiting the exposure of unforeseen expenditures for the district, it also restructures the debt so that it's stair-step down, meaning the taxpayer receives a tax break each year. So you can see specifically it'd be $61, then $75, and then $80. And then the district is also able to complete its capital projects while being able to have some cash on hand to address unforeseen expenditures that may arise. A similar approach would also be recommended and should be considered in 27, 28 when the referendum debt is coming off so that we have money, this would be through life safety to complete the roofs, but that we're not letting that debt expire and then coming to the board a year later and asking them to reissue debt, because then what happens is the taxpayer receives a huge tax break and then their taxes go way back up and then taxpayers are wondering, right, what's going on. So the thought is to, in both situations, is keeping it stable and providing a decrease to the taxpayers each year.
So again, no increase. It's even by doing this, it's still being annual
Do you want to go to the
decrease
next
to the
slide?
taxes. Correct.
Yes, the next slide is, you'll probably have to zoom back out a little bit, Marianne.
Because it's more the graphical depiction of
Yes, so
that.
this would be a graphical representation of what we just discussed. So you can see the 24 and 25 would be the new bonds. They'd be well below that limit, and then they would come off after 2025. So the next steps, like I said, Liz Hennessy, the district's bond counsel, will come to the June board 11th meeting. She'll review this presentation again. So if you have any additional questions, please submit them in advance. But she'll also discuss the next steps in the process as well.
Okay. So we do not have to take action on this till that special meeting. It's important that the board see this. I think Dr. Smetana touched on the 2 large capital requests, but we get multiple capital requests. I think she touched on that throughout. The 150 for the loading dock. There's some other capital requests submitted for RBTV. We need to set up a replacement plan for the pianos in the music department. Right now, Mr. Baum submitted a $450,000 request for replacing the 4 pianos. So we're gonna start getting quotes on that and come up with a rotation plan to replace pianos. We won't be doing grand Steinways in each room, but we need to get some different quotes. So Dr. Smetana is working on that. So that all falls under the capital requests and asks that are coming in regards to capital needs. And so by having this $2 million, it's really just a safety measure. There's no tax increase. It's actually still a tax decrease to the residents, but it also prevents the board from draining their fund balance in the event of, like you just experienced earlier in the meeting, where we don't get $800,000 in taxes till after, hopefully July or August, right? So you have to have that money on hand to make payroll and to pay the bills and keep the lights on for 2 months until the tax dollars come in a later collection. So it would be the safe and wise move to, split your risk. Take some out of the bank and to borrow some at a low interest rate while we have, and still could do a tax decrease for the residents.
And currently, we're looking at a $2 million bond, which I think is less than what was originally thought, with the idea that we were moving $5 million last time based on the late tax. But if we can, I'm definitely in favor of the smaller. I think it makes sense to even things out. Certainly, we'll still see the 2 bonds coming off in 24 and 25. So, okay, I'm just trying to get a sense of where we are.
And just to emphasize, the bond money can only be used for capital. It cannot be used for salaries. It cannot be used for any type of other operating expense. I think that's an important takeaway. And then these would need to go to, published intent to hear, and then we'd have Raymond James do the sale.
Correct. So you'll see it 2 or 3 more times before we actually need to take action, but it's a good idea just for the board to see that and to get an understanding. So we wanted to see it once, then Ms. Hennessy will be here next week, so we could
She'll be
ask
here on the
questions.
28th or the 28th?
The 11th.
The 11th, okay.
And then the special meeting is the 25th.
So she will be here on the 28th
Today's
or
the
the
28th. Today's the 28th.
Gotcha.
If she has to be here on the 25th, we can have her here.
Okay.
Via Zoom, right, or call.
Right.
But I think if anyone on the board has questions, and I'll talk to our colleagues who are not here this evening and recommend that they submit their questions in writing beforehand. Dr. Smetana, thanks for stepping in and doing this on behalf of Liz. Visitor statements. I'm assuming we have visitor statements this evening? Is that a yes?
Sure.
Okay. The Board of Education welcomes and encourages the participation of its citizens in the business of the school district. There are 2 points in the meeting where visitor statements are scheduled. Citizens are welcome to raise questions or make comments in either one. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per individual and cannot be combined. Please note the Board of Education will not answer questions or engage in dialogue during visitor comments. If a person would like additional time to address the board, such a request should be submitted in writing 48 hours before the meeting to the superintendent.
Good evening, thanks. First, I want to say thank you to Lorena, Ms. Gaska, I wasn't going to say anything tonight, but every time I come here, the discussions that you guys have just bring up new things that I can say to you to try to convince you to see my point of view. Tonight, Mr. Van Horst, Ms. Slack, Deanna, all of you are saying how it's a process for staffing, right? You can make an exception for a department if you want to, if you so choose to. For example, we have a full-time teacher for RBTV. He is designated as a 1.0 FTE. He does not teach 180 students. He does not have 5 classes of 40 students per class. But yet he is reserved in the special category as a 1.0 FTE. And that does not change from year to year, no matter how many people are signing up for RBTV. Sorry, I'm just really passionate right now. So I want us to say, you can revisit your staffing models. You can make an exception if you want to. We have presented you with many different ways you can break out the teachers, how they can co-teach. They can teach smaller classes, they can teach bigger classes, but music is different than an English class. It's different than a math class. They take on a lot more than just the day-to-day classroom activities. So again, you can make an exception if you want to. You just have to have the will. Thank you.
Maggie White from Riverside. Wanted to address some of the discussion around the numbers. Yes, numbers have been presented and calculations have been methodically presented, but what if those numbers are built on a straw man? The number is based on 40 students per each music class, not the program. We've asked for a year why the 40, what is the best practice that it's based on. What we finally learned a couple meetings back is that it is based on a formula that was developed a decade ago when we were in a deficit situation. So that model, that basis for the numbers has not been revisited. When Liz Bushio and I spoke in, I think, March, we presented a model that leverages RB's best practices in co-teaching. It leverages best practices that we've researched in terms of music class sizes and ensemble task sizes. So we can show that to you how we have calculated that as point of information. Other numbers, we presented recently that we have 23 students in the class of 24 that is going on to major and minor in music, and that many of these students are at a disadvantage because AP Music Theory was not offered this year in their senior year. So we have also presented that music is unlike a single subject class. It is a program and a curriculum sequence. It builds on each other progressively. It's not successful if it's tinkered with year after year based on fluctuations of this class or that class. It has to be protected. Again, I just wanted to remind you of some of these points as we talk about the numbers. And I think we've presented a lot of numbers over time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Naomi Telepis, daughter who's a sophomore here, who's in music. And I just wanted to say there are so many things that are so unique about what it is to be in music as a high school student. And I know, do you have kids? Are your kids in athletes? Are they in athletics? Are they in music? They're in music too. That's great. One of the hard things, and I feel like there are so many things we could talk about, parts of kids' lives right now, but music and athletics have so many things in common with each other, where it's really like the thing that makes a kid get out of bed. It's not math. It's not bowling, sorry. It's not blended learning. It's either their sport or their instrument or their performance. And the hard thing with music is that those kids are having to choose and very, very carefully craft what classes they can take, which is different from athletes. They're very different in that way because they're very high performing. In the most part, they're some of the highest academic performing kids at the school, but they're having to make really, really tough decisions on electives where if you're a high performing athlete, you never have to say, oh, gee, will I take pre-engineering or will I play football? Or will I take, 3 years of Spanish where it says if I want to get into a competitive school, I have to take at least 3 years? Or will I do the thing I love? These are the hard choices that the music students are having to make. It's for their mental health. It's what gets them out of bed in the morning. We had a record number of students who are choir students who qualified, to go to ILMEA this year, which is the state competition. That's something that's very special. We have a very special choir teacher. And because it's so hard to juggle all those kids with all those really intense needs every day, they pool together to get it done. And basically, the choir teacher is bartending to be able to afford her life. If we think she's special, if we think that Mr. Baum, Mr. Loeb, and the choir teacher, Miss Montana, are special, let's just have them all three stay. Let's support the music students. That's what we should do. Thanks. Thanks, Lorena.
Anyone else this evening? Here we go.
Hi, I'm Jane Salepis, a student here. I would like to bring up the fact that I don't understand why we can't make exceptions for this. We make exceptions for students so then they can succeed in their school career here. We make exceptions for homework. You talk it out and make deals with the people. I don't understand why we are comparing the music department to other departments since it is so special and it is a thing in its own right. You talk about how if we made this exception for music, we'd have to make this exception for other classes. If another department was in this situation, I don't understand why you wouldn't make special exceptions. I think it's a good thing if we allow these departments that need a little help and are succeeding. Why can't we make exceptions for them when they're struggling? Just like how we would a student. Thank you.
Thank you. Good job.
Anyone else? No? Okay.
Old business?
Well, let's just discuss, any additional discussion items to be added to the agenda? Seeing none? Okay, old business. Life safety, we covered. The culinary lab, the DLA and Nicholas agreements.
Dr. Smetana.
Yes, in the action sheet, I've provided all of the background that I've provided in the past about the culinary lab. I'm not going to read all of that to you, but some of the newer items and updates on the culinary lab. On May 22nd, the Facility Advisory Council reviewed the updated plan in detail, which was the 95% construction documents. The board had seen the 90%. And prior to that, we also reviewed that document with DLA, the district's architect, RB staff, as well as Nicholas and Associates, our construction management. We are set to go out to bid this Thursday, and the public notice has been distributed, so it's set to go for Thursday. Next week we will have a pre-bid meeting for contractors and then the official bid opening on the 18th, and then the board has agreed to have a special meeting on June 25th to award the bid. So I provided, in terms of the actual construction documents, nothing is new. I provided the renderings as well as the drawing. But tonight, there are additional agreements that I need approved for DLA, the district's architect, as well as Nicholas and Associates, the district construction manager. These are all second reads or more. And then, so I'll go through those in a little bit of detail. So for DLA, there are 3 documents that I'm requesting approval for that you have, for DLA, seen since February or March. The first document is the updated master agreement with DLA. So this is the document we've been working on with both attorneys for the past couple of months to replace the one that the board approved in 2013 or 14. The next document that is included in the board packet is the final version of the MOU for DLA for the culinary lab, which outlines the architect fee of 9%, which is in line with the past work that DLA has done for the district. And the third agreement is to use Bolter, the kitchen consultant, to assist with the design of the space. And the district council has reviewed all of these documents. So I'm asking for approval on those documents tonight for DLA. And then there will be one additional document, which is a different form of an AIA that's specific to this project for DLA. And I should have that ready to go for June 11th. The legal counsels are going back and forth on reviewing that. In regards to Nicholas, in January, the board approved their master agreement for the district's construction manager. Outlined in that agreement is for any significant project, the administration will bring an Exhibit 1 or MOU for approval, which outlines the construction management fee. We talked at the last board meeting of trying to negotiate the 5% fee slightly down to 5.25% or 5%. But in talking with DLA, we agreed to keep it at Nicholas, we agreed to keep it at 5.5%, but that will include the complete oversight of the solar panel project as well. So the Exhibit 1 was revised to include the solar panel project. And that is the background on those. I don't know, the board is...
There were no questions submitted for this
Correct.
week.
Nope.
No. So I'm comfortable moving forward. Is everyone good moving forward?
I kind of.
Yes,
I think it's time.
Would you mind reading it, please?
The Board of Education, Township High School District 208, Cook County, Illinois, hereby approves the AIA Master Agreement with DLA, the MOU with DLA for the Culinary Lab, and the Bolter Agreement as presented in the May 28, 2024 Board Agenda Packet.
Second.
Second from Mr. Van Horst. We do need a roll call, please.
Ms. Gasko?
Yes.
Ms. Slack?
Yes.
Mr. Van Horst?
Yes.
Mr. Durkin?
Yes.
And Ms. Salas?
Yes. And the next one. Yeah.
The Board of Education, Township High School District 208, Cook County, Illinois, hereby approves Exhibit 1 with Nicholas and Associates as presented in the May 28, 2024 Board Agenda Packet.
Second.
Second from Ms. Locke, and we need a roll call.
Mr. Durkin?
Yes.
Ms. Gasko?
Yes.
Ms. Slack?
Yes.
Mr. Van Horst?
Yes.
And Ms. Salas?
Yes. And then do we want to just move on the NANIA? Do you want to speak? Did we
I
cover
can
that
speak to that. I updated that.
Oh, you did update, okay.
So I left all the background in the action sheet because we have been discussing this for quite some time. So I included the contract with NANIA. I included the middle option in regards to the 3 solar panel options that we were revisiting, but then also I updated a solar panel timeline I created for the board. And so this timeline would allow the district, like I said, to utilize Nicholas and Associates for the solar panels while they were working on the culinary project, which was what the goal was, and to have some savings for the district. So in order to move forward with the spring or summer installation, I would recommend approval of the NANIA contract tonight. As you can see, by the timeline, they would need about 2 weeks to create the initial RFP, and then they would send it to the district, and we would review it along with Nicholas for review and comment, and that would take a couple of weeks to go back and forth to get that to a finalized version. Then the target would be in mid-July to go out to RFP to try to finalize and solicit different vendors. And then we would be asking for the board sometime in September to approve the solar company. And then that gives us time to order the solar panels, work through the design, and then ultimately look for a spring or summer, early summer installation.
So I don't think we get any questions on this either. Thank you for putting the timeline together. I think that's helpful, and having Nicholas oversee both projects is what we were looking for. So I'm comfortable moving forward, if everyone else is. Yes?
Yep.
And is it NANIA or NANIA?
I think it's NANIA.
NANIA.
I'm so
It's easier if you don't look at the name and you just pronounce it.
Because I go
I just say
Narnia each
Narnia.
time I see it.
Yeah.
Right,
Narnia,
and that's,
Boston.
not to make light of it, it's a big investment, but I'm just like, every time I say it, I'm not quite there, so thank you.
The Board of Education, Township High School District 208, Cook County, Illinois, approves the NANIA Energy Advisors Solar Service Agreement as presented in the May 28, 2024 Board Agenda Packet.
Second.
Second from Mr. Van Horst. We need a roll call, please.
Ms. Slack?
Yes.
Mr. Van Horst?
Yes.
Ms. Salas,
Yes.
and Mr. Durkin.
Yes.
And Ms.
Gaska.
And Ms. Gasko.
Yes.
Sorry.
That's okay.
And then we had a follow-up on the RB Sports Booster activity account, which is just the creation of an activity account.
Correct.
But there were some audit questions you were following up.
Our auditor verified that it was okay, correct, Dr. Smetana?
That it's okay to set up the account and to hold their money, and should the occasion arise where we need to give them the money back at a later point, that was also acceptable.
That was my question. Were there any other questions from anyone else?
No, we just want to acknowledge again, I think I put it in the Friday update, that the boosters recently just donated $26,000. So thank you to the boosters again for that.
No, thank you. That's an organization that supports a lot of our students, so it's appreciated.
The Board of Education, Township High School District 208, Cook County, Illinois, approves the activity account for the RB Sports Boosters Video Board Project as presented in the May 28, 2024 Board Agenda Packet.
Second.
Second from Ms. Locke, and we do need a roll call.
Mr. Durkin.
Yes.
Ms. Gasko.
Yes.
Ms. Locke.
Yes.
Mr. Van Horst.
Yes.
And Ms. Salas.
Yes. New business, there's a girls' cross-country overnight read. That's a first read, or does that need to be done today?
Dr. Freitas.
Greetings again, the Honorable Board of Education. Our head girls cross country coach, Mr. Jensen, is requesting approval for the girls cross country overnight trip to the Northern Illinois University Laredo Taft Field campus in Oregon, Illinois, from August 16th to the 17th. This is an annual trip that Coach has facilitated. Has been successful, and he will be taking also 2 female chaperones with him. So this is a first read. Honorable Board, that's the trip.
Were there any questions submitted on this?
There were no questions submitted. If the board chooses to wait, Dr. Freitas, is that a problem?
It is not a problem.
Do we have a problem?
I have no problem approving
I have
it
no
tonight.
problem with
Anyone?
this.
Let's approve it. Okay, let's approve it. Move it on.
The Board of Education, Township High School District 208, Cook County, Illinois, approves the overnight trip for the girls' cross-country team at Northern Illinois University, Laredo Taft Field campus from August 16th through the 17th, 2024, as presented in the May 28th, 2024 Board Agenda Packet.
Second.
Second from Mr. Van Horst, and that's a roll call, please.
Mr. Van Horst.
Yes.
Mr. Durkin.
Yes.
Ms. Gasko.
Yes.
Ms. Locke.
Yes.
And Ms. Salas.
Yes. We took out of order and approved the student advisors. Thank you again to Ms. Gaska and Mr. Van Horst who did the interviews. We had a lot of candidates, and that was a good process. Final calendar for 23-24 school year, there were no changes. Correct?
Correct.
We go ahead and approve that.
The Board of Education, Township High School District 208, Cook County, Illinois, approves the final 2023-2024 school calendar with the emergency days of May 24th, 28th, 29th, 30, and 31 eliminated to be submitted to the Illinois State Board of Education as presented in the May 28th, 2024 Board Agenda Packet.
Second.
Second from Ms. Locke. All in favor?
Aye.
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 No opposition. That passes. Transfer of interest from debt service to the education fund.
Annually, the district transfers the interest earned from the debt service fund to the education fund. The education fund is the fund in most need of additional resources, as that's where a majority of our expenditures come out of. The amount of interest earned this fiscal year to date on interest on investments in debt service was $134,452. So I recommend that the board approves the transfer of this amount plus any additional interest earned in this account between now and June 30th. I don't anticipate us receiving any additional interest on investment, but it'd be helpful if it was worded that way. Also, this is a first read. If the board is inclined to approve it tonight, it would be helpful so I can work with the township treasurer to make sure that we have everything on file, but it could also wait if the board prefers.
This is standard operating procedure.
Yeah.
I'm happy
So I
to go
hope you get your
forward.
books closed for July 1st, too?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, I'm fine moving forward.
The Board of Education, Township High School District 208, Cook County, Illinois, approves the transfer of interest earnings in the debt service fund to the education fund as presented in the May 28, 2024 Board Agenda Packet.
Second.
Second for Mr. Van Horst. We need a roll call, please.
Ms. Gasko.
Yes.
Ms. Locke.
Yes.
Mr. Van Horst.
Yes.
Mr. Durkin.
Yes.
And Ms. Salas.
Yes. Dr. Smetana, the tentative budget for FY25.
Included in the board packet tonight is the first draft of the tentative budget for fiscal year '25. As you all know, you will see many iterations of the budget throughout the summer. This is just the first read. The actuals for revenue and expenditure are reported as of April 30th. So since there are still 2 months remaining in the current fiscal year, many of the items are not finalized in the tentative budget, so we can't look at what our actuals are coming in at. Currently, the district is anticipating a deficit for next year of $362,018. This will change as the budget's finalized over the next few months, and we see where property taxes come in this fiscal year. This deficit does include the solar panel project. The culinary lab is in the budget, but it's in the capital account, so it's not considered an operating expense, so it doesn't hit against the deficit, but it does decrease the fund balance. The Finance Advisory Council reviewed this on May 21st. Before the June meeting, we anticipate being able to input the May 31st actuals, and we'll make any small changes that we can depending on the timing of that. So this is just a first read. At the June board meeting, I'll ask the board to approve the tentative budget, which will then go on the website, and then we'll continue to make changes throughout the summer before the board finally approves the final budget in September.
And I'm assuming, Dr. Smetana, you're available to brief anyone who has any follow-up questions.
Yes, and I would also, as I've said in the past, we try to pull out the revenue assumptions and expenditure assumptions. That's a good place to start for somebody who's just looking at the budget and wants to get a general sense of the picture, as well as the summary page. And then on the bottom of that summary page, once the fund balances come in July, I'll update that part of the budget as well.
So like any other year, our largest expenditure items are going to be salary and benefits.
Correct.
Any discussion or questions tonight on this? Okay, and we'll look at it again in a few weeks. IGA with West 40.
So I can take this. The district has an intergovernmental agreement with West 40, which is our regional office of education. So it's an annual practice every year that we bring this to the board for alternate programs that we provide for students in our district. We provide It's changed. I was going to say it's changed names. I believe now it's Tapestry is the correct name. But that's a support program within our building, staffed through West 40, and then we also will utilize their regional safe school program should we need it, and that's in lieu of expulsion or suspension, providing a safe school for intense academic and mental health support for those students as well. So this is a first read.
Okay, so any questions submitted at this point? No, then we'll revisit it again in June or July. The IASB board representative.
This is an annual formality. Historically, Laura Haruska has served as our IASB representative. This is the delegate who will go to the annual conference and report, make our vote when they try to get a poll of the districts that participate in IASB and how they want the advocacy to be directed.
I did communicate with Ms. Ruska, and she is interested in serving in this capacity once
I
again.
will nominate her if that's the case. But anybody else, is anyone else interested? I should.
No,
I will nominate Ms. Ruska.
Yeah, do we need an actual motion on this one, or are we just going to just say? I mean, what she effectively does is vote on our behalf with our.
If Ryan makes a motion, someone could second and just say all in favor.
Yeah, I can say motion to approve Laura Ruska as District 208 Board of Education representative to the Illinois Association of School Boards.
Second. Second from Ms. Locke. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No objections. Congratulations in advance to Laura. I think we want to put the boys and girls bowling stipend on hold to give more information on that program at the next meeting. Bonds, that was an update. Thank you, Dr. Smetana. And the facility rental agreement, that's an annual update.
Formality, every year the board approves a facility rental agreement. Dr. Smetana and I went through it with the Facilities Advisory Committee on May 22nd. There are no increases in pricing this year, but it's good to have the board approve every July the rental agreement and community members and outside organizations will use to rent our facility. And that was also reviewed by our council as well.
And so next summer would be a chance to revisit rates, is my understanding, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So there were no questions submitted. Do you want us to approve this evening? It's a bit of a formality. Going okay?
The Board of Education, Township High School District 208, Cook County, Illinois, approves facility use agreement as presented in the May 28, 2024 board agenda packet.
Second.
A second from Ms. Locke, and I think we need a roll call.
Ms. Slack?
Yes.
Mr. Van Horn?
Yes.
Mr. Durkin?
Yes.
Ms. Gasko?
Yes.
Ms. Salis?
Yes. No one has here for visitor statements. Second opportunity. There were no discussion items requested. Any consideration of items for future meetings from any members of the board?
When do we reset the advisory committees and the?
Next April. When we have the.
After the next election.
Oh, it's every 2 years. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Except we've had a couple
It
changes.
feels like it feels like it's
We
every.
were changing
April.
every 6 months
Yeah.
there for a bit.
Thank you.
Between Tom and Mona.
That's what it was. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's not a topic, just a point of information. Got it. Matters for closed session: appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body; student discipline, individual student matters; purchase, sale, or lease of real property; probable imminent or pending litigation; collective negotiations; and school safety.
The Board of Education, Township High School District 208, Cook County, Illinois, enters closed session for the purpose of considering the closed session matters as presented in the May 28, 2024 board agenda packet.
Second.
Second from Mr. Van Horst, and we need a roll call to go into closed.
Mr. Durkin?
Yes.
Ms. Ruska? I'm sorry, Ms. Slack?
Yes.
Mr. Van Horn?
Yes.
Ms. Salis?
Yes.
And Ms. Gasko?
Yes.
Okay. 9:11.